Okay, so next step is to start wet sanding this. You will need a 1500 grit sanding paper, and also you can either use your hand, or I like to use the soft pad. You'll also need some clean bucket of water with some soap. It will help make sanding a lot easier. And after you sand this down with 1500 grit, you can always go up to 2000, then buff it, but I just do it over 1500. It turns out okay. If you go over 2000 grit, it cuts down on your buffing time and the amount of rubbing compound you'll need, but that's up to you. And another thing is, when you start sanding this panel, you want to be very careful. In fact, you don't want to sand over these body lines. See how because it's pointy at this body line. So if you go even with a 1500 grit, which is very fine sanding paper, if you go over this really hard, or if you do it a couple of times, you're gonna burn through your clear coat, and that's gonna ruin your paint job. Okay, so you want to just stop below this body panel, like just there, and just right above it. You never want to go over it. You want to be very careful, especially if you're doing this, because it's easy to forget, and you're not paying attention, and there goes your clear coat. Okay, and also these body lines, when you start sanding here, this is the panel that we didn't paint, so it's okay. But when you start sanding here, you can either tape this side up with some tape, or you can get something soft and put it in the door jamb, close this door, and that way you make sure you never want to do this, obviously, and you make sure when you're sanding you're not rubbing against the edge of the adjacent panel and ruining that. Okay. And another thing, this is a very time-consuming process. You want to put away, for these two panels, you want to put away a good 3, maybe even 4 hours, a solid 3 hours to 4 hours away for wet sanding this, then buffing it. And it's best if you divide up your panels into 4 squares, so you can do you can just go right across here and do this square first, then the one next to it, then this one. That way you can concentrate on one square at a time. I actually like to get all my sanding out of the way, even though if you cut it down to squares, you get all the sanding out of the way, and then you go, after you finish sanding the whole both panels, then you go over to your buffing. So that's probably the best way to do it, not just do one square sand, then buff, then sand, then buff. Alright. Okay, and also you want to make sure you sand where your buffer can get to, like these places. This is actually even a dangerous area to sand anyway, because you're gonna get your sand on these edges and then burn through your clear coat. Also, you don't want to get your buffer in there, because your buffer can also just as easily burn through your clear coat if you get it on these edges, but we'll get to that when we start buffing. Tape this adjacent panel. You don't want to tape these panels because you just got paint on these. Like, for example, if you go to wet sand this one, don't put tape on this, because your paint might not have cured long enough, and then you go to peel off your paint, you might peel off some of your paint. Just do the same thing I did there, put something like pieces of clothing in the door jamb, so this is resting up, and then gently, while this is out, you just gently sand these close to these edges. I've already gone ahead and sanded this panel, but just to show you guys what kind of finish you're going for while you're sanding, I'm gonna sand this section here, and then we'll buff it also, and so you get to have a good idea of what you're going for. Okay, whenever wet sanding, I like to get these edges out of the way, so just gonna go do these edges first. Again, make sure you stay away from that line. Okay, and the way you know that you need to stop sanding or you're done sanding an area is basically you need to just wipe all the stuff off. You can reuse these soft sanding blocks. This is another reason why I like using these, because they're got multiple use. Or you can also just use a rag and get it all off. Make sure it's dry, because that's when you can see actually what's going on. And as you can see, I don't know, actually you might not be able to see, but see how it's all smooth? This area is all smooth, and like this back here, this is where we kind of stopped sanding, because you can still see there's more work to be done. Like these edges back here, they're not as smooth. They've been sanded over, but they're not as smooth as, let's say, this area here. It's really hard to get all the way to the edge. In fact, you know, you don't try not to get right below the edge because you can't buff it. So yeah, you gotta keep that in mind. But for example, up to, I would say, let's see if we can get you a better picture. I would say up to here, up to around here, we're done sanding. So we sanded from here to about here. So this area is all nice and smooth, uniform texture, smooth texture. So we're done sanding with that, so we can move on to the next area. Okay, and also notice how I stopped right above this door line, this the line on this panel. Okay, because you don't want to go over that. Okay, now it's time for buffing. You will obviously need a rubbing compound. I usually use a 3M made product, but I've ran out of that, and I've had this laying around forever, so I'm just gonna try this. It should be fine. It's a medium cut compound by McGuire's, and obviously you need a buffer with a buffing pad, and you want to make sure this is clean. And yeah, you're gonna lay this at one section, and you do this at one section at a time. And just to show you guys, I'm gonna be doing this section, and you wanna lay this buffer flat on the panel when you're buffing. See, as long as you lay this flat, you're staying away from these edges too. So, you know, make sure you're laying it flat. You don't go this way. So if you go on this edge, even, you know, it takes seconds to ruin that clear coat. All right, and also you want to go away from the lip, from the end of the panel. You know, if you dig into this like this, you'll also burn the clear coat at the tip. So, you know, you want to go this way. Once you get closer to the panel, you can also slightly lift this side a little bit, just tiny fraction. I know you're supposed to only keep this flat, but once you get the hang of it, you can just make it slight adjustments and you'll be fine. Okay, so just gonna shake our rubbing compound and lay it on here. That's enough for now. And then you want to start on the lowest setting on your buffer, and then you spread this around. And then you can go to a medium setting or higher speed. And also when you buff, you want to make sure you're always moving. You don't want to let your buffer sit in one place, because it will get hot and burn through the clear coat. Okay, so you want the faster you set your setting to, the faster you want to move your buffer. All right. And here's a look at our finish after the first coat. You can tell it's starting to look really shiny, but if you look at the right angle, there's still some areas that need buffing, that are still the sand scratches from our 1500 grit is showing. So we're gonna make another pass. It usually takes anywhere from 3 to 5 passes to buff out an area that you usually wet sanded. Okay. Okay, so I made 3 passes in this area, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good. So just so you guys can tell the difference, this is the area we wet sanded and buffed. Just try to look at the reflection and see, this is the area we didn't wet sand and buff, and yuck. So yeah, this is what you need to do for the whole entire panel. And also, you know, actually this area we wet sanded and buffed, we did a really good job. In fact, it's a lot clearer. I don't know if you're gonna be able to pick this up, but it's even more clear than this adjacent panel that had been sprayed and probably buffed previously. So in order for, you know, for it to not be so it doesn't stand out, you can always just wet sand, and you don't have to go crazy, like you don't have to go be as thorough here, because this is already pretty good. You know, you just can slightly wet sand and then buff this area that's next to this panel, so it just blends into the rest of the car. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna turn off the camera now and wet sand and buff the rest of this car, and then we'll take it outside and wash it down and show you the final product. Okay. Alrighty, it doesn't look like I'm gonna have enough time to buff out these 2 doors completely and take them out and wash it, then show the final product. So I just got done finishing the top part of these doors right above this trim on both doors, and decided to show you the final, the semi-final result. Okay, and as you can see, if this camera focus, there we go, it's pretty clear. You can make out all the different stuff I got in the shop through the reflection. Got my shag bar back there, and yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, once you take it out in the sun, you're gonna see all the spots you missed, or there's, you know, you can still see the sand scratches or, you know, whatnot, imperfections that you might need to sand down and buff again. But as a whole, right now, it looks pretty good. Let me just move out from here to the back. Yeah, it's pretty clear. It's pretty shiny. In fact, even shinier than these old panels. I still have to sand these around close to the store. I'm gonna slightly wet sand these areas and buff them, so you know, so no one can pick up a huge difference in shine, or you know. But yeah, you definitely want to take out your car right after you buff it and sand, clean it, because all this rubbing compound, if it dries up on here, then it'll be a lot harder to get off. It also is going to get in every nook and crevice, and just won't look good, you know. So yeah, you want to, after you start, if you finish buffing, you want to take the car out and thoroughly wash and clean, get all that rubbing compound out of there. Okay, and you also don't want to wax your car right after you paint it. You want to wait about a month before you wax your car, because your clear coat needs to breathe and dry up. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. You can start wet sanding it after 24 hours. Just notice there's a huge color change in this camera, but anyway, yeah, you can wet sand it after 24 hours if you live, you know, if it's not too cold where you live, and but you can't wax it for a month. Okay, because the clear coat keeps drying for a month total, maybe even longer. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But yeah. So I'm gonna call this series done. Hope this video helps people out there. Just goes to show you, with basic tools, you can, a lot of elbow grease, you can, you know, you can save a whole bunch of money. So if some people out there, they also just enjoy working on their cars, even if the result doesn't come out professionally. Okay, so yeah, hope you're in that group, and if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them below, and if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.